You're watching PM Agenda. Time to bring in our Monday afternoon political strategist. Grahame Morris is here with me in Canberra. Bruce Hawker is in the Sky News Centre. Welcome to you both. Grahame, let's talk about the Iraq pre-deployment. They're heading 600 Aussies heading to the Middle East before they go into Iraq. A lot of questions today to Tony Abbott about what's the objective here. How important is that to have a clear, defined objective at the outset?
Well, look, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Because the National Security Committees and all of those sort of people inside Cabinet, they would have talked about this. But you can't really say to the lunatics out there, hey, this is our plan, this is how long we'll be here, this is what we'll do. You know, it's a war, so you wouldn't. But look, I think we would all hope that our actions there, that we are sort of controlling from the air and allowing the locals to do their job on the ground to the point where at some stage we hope that these Maddies attack plans become inoperable. You know, I don't think you're ever going to drive them away, but you can make them a useless military force, or they might be plodding along in the background still as a political force.
Bruce, the big concern, of course, has been with Islamic State making that big incursion into northern Iraq and seizing all that territory. So clearly, and the PM said this today, the hope is to push them back out of Iraq at the very least. I guess the reason he's using the word hope, though, is that you just don't know how hard that's going to be, how long that's going to take, how well the Iraqi military are going to play their role as well.
I agree with all that. The reality is that ISIL is a very effective fighting force right now, so I think it would be foolish to set down any time limits, and certainly President Obama has refused to do that. But what the Americans are saying is that they want to make sure that ISIL ceases to be an effective force in the region, threatening the United States and its allies and other other Middle Eastern powers. So to do that,
isn't the reality on that, though, that as long as they can do those beheadings that shock and appall everybody, that is going to instill the fear in the American people? Well, I guess so, but they're a pretty tough breed, and they're used to getting involved in these sorts of conflagrations. The challenge and the political problem isn't really getting into these wars; it's getting out of them, and that's what we saw. Constantly in Vietnam, and Grahame and I are certainly old enough to remember all that. Getting in often seems to be self-evidently the right thing to do. Getting out becomes an incredibly problematic issue, and I think this is going to be the problem in the longer term. Yeah. Yeah, and Tony Abbott's not talking about years, but Grahame, potentially it could be. Do you agree that that is going to be the harder part of this? At what point you decide we've achieved the objective?
Yes, I do. That is the hard bit. We hope that at some stage the local authorities there will grow up and be able to run a half-decent government themselves. But I suppose the other alternative is worth looking at. What if this ASIL crowd did actually set up a government? What sort of government would it be? Full of religious fanatics. Sorry, I can't fix your hospital today, I'm off to another beheading. These people are evil mongrels who want to run a government. Gee.
There's no doubt, no doubt about any of that. I just want to ask you both, though, about the politics of this. I guess you can't really understate the importance of bipartisanship between the two main parties here, Bruce, can you? Without that, this would be a very, very different debate, wouldn't it?
It certainly would be, and Labor is committed, as it generally has been in the past, to these sorts of wars. It certainly didn't support the 2003 invasion of Iraq. I think as now is shown for good and proper reason, because that's where all the trouble started. That was where the vacuum was created that led to these monsters. But I think Labor, under Bill Shorten, accepts and fully endorses the importance of putting ISIS back in its place, whether it takes months or years to do so. But there will be
cracks in Labor on that? Will there be some who are worried as this
drags on, if it does drag on?
Oh, I think there'll always be concerns about a war that goes on and on and on. I mean, the Americans lost, you know, tens of thousands of people in Iraq, Afghanistan. They're not going to want to see this thing go on forever. That's why they're talking about airstrikes. And I think similarly in Australia, you know, you have to work out how you actually do the withdrawal. And that, I think, will mean getting the Middle Eastern countries adjoining Iraq and Syria to the table and actually to the war. And that's what Kerry's trying to do right now, and I think with some success. But you know, it's going to be incredibly complex. You think about the Syrians, for example. The Americans are talking about arming moderate Syrians against ISIL, but not Assad. Well, that's because there's this hierarchy of perfidy that they're dealing with at the moment, and those two characters sit at the top of it.
Yeah,
you know, ISIL and Assad.
The risk, I think, David, the Cabinet would have discussed, and these are the sorts of things we all hope don't happen. You know, that one of our planes is downed, that one of our SAS teams, patrols, gets ambushed, that there is, say, real blow-up in the Middle East, or that some of these homegrown lunatics come back to Australia or to Bali or Indonesia or somewhere and do something terrible. You know, they're the sort of risks that we all hope don't happen.
Let's talk about the Prime Minister's visit to Arnhem Land this week. A lot of focus there on Indigenous recognition. Also an idea that's apparently been put to the Prime Minister, and he hasn't ruled it out, but I think he's probably being more polite than anything, having dedicated seats in the Senate for Indigenous Australians. They do that in New Zealand, in the New Zealand Parliament for Maori seats. Graham, what do you think of the idea? Is it ever going to see the light of day?
No. And look, in New Zealand, the Maoris have one language. In Australia, in 1788, we had 700 Aboriginal languages. We're down to about 120 now. Look, Neville Bonner, Aidan Ridgway, Wyatt in Western Australia, Nova Peris. You know, they all got there in their own right. And, you know, if anyone really wants to sort out the Constitution and get Aboriginal recognition of this, do not throw these sort of red herrings across the table. It will destroy things.
Bruce, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a recipe for defeat if they go down that path. People are going to feel very uncomfortable about it. It doesn't sit very easily, I think, with a lot of people, and probably with a lot of Indigenous Australians as well. I mean, in the Northern Territory, Indigenous Australians are very well represented in that Parliament, and they're very active. They don't require any special treatment or assistance to get there. They do it in their own right, and there are several members of that Parliament from local communities, Aboriginal communities, doing a pretty good job. So I don't think it would work at all. I think the question of you know, Aboriginal recognition of prior Aboriginal occupation of Australia is something which should get support, provided there's bipartisanship about it. And if that happens, then I think we could be in a good space. But if you push the envelope too far, then it'll create anxiety. It'll give reason for certain people in various political parties to try to be very political about it, and it'll go down.
Well, that debate's got a way to go, no doubt. We're out of time today. Bruce, Hawker, Grahame Morris, thanks both for joining us. Take a break. Back with more on PM Agenda.
When it comes to looking after yourself, little steps is all it takes. And at Medibank, we think these little steps shouldn't go unnoticed. That's why we're rewarding you every day for being active by giving you Flybuys points. Plus, join Hospital and Extras cover by September 30 and you'll also get a free Fitbit Flex Wise activity tracker. Making little steps more rewarding. All part of Generation Better. Call Medibank today.
If, like me, you sometimes find yourself out of breath, try the new drug-free respiratory training device from AeroSure.
Used regularly, AeroSure could help to reduce the feeling of breathlessness and help clear mucus.
Breathe easy with AeroSure.
Now available at these leading pharmacies.
Have you been up all night?
I'm looking for hotel deals.
Why didn't you just go to Hotels Combined? They compare hundreds of travel sites in seconds.
Hotels Combined.
Find the best price in seconds at hotelscombined.com.
If credit card debt is hot on your heels, you'll need to shake it off. And with a NAB credit card, you can leave it far behind. That's because you'll get 0% per annum on balance transfers on a new NAB premium card.
Less under pressure, more on track.
Apply for 0% per annum on balance transfers for 15 months. NAB premium card. More give, less take.
Romania. Timeless home of this thing, Dracula.
Hi!
Fast horses, fast horse cars, and a faster average internet speed than Australia.
Australia's internet sucks!
IONET's changing this by connecting Australia to the internet it deserves with the NBN. So, switch to a great value plan with the company that's #1 in customer service. It's a matter of national pride. Okay, that's enough.
We love your projects. We go nuts for your kitchen painting projects, and we high-five, fist pump over your wallpapering the hall project. We love the smell of paint in the morning. We're Inspirations Paint Stores, and we want to help. We have loads of ideas, and together with you, we can do amazing things. And we can't wait to get stuck in.
What's your next project?
Hi, it's Kitty from Progressive Car Insurance. We bought this 15-second ad to tell you that we can save you money because we're 100% online. And I think it worked.
Ready to save on comprehensive car insurance? Visit progressiveonline.com.au.